Alright, welcome to another video. I'm doing a mustache thing now, so prepare yourselves. I've also got a lot of garbage in the background that I'll be taking care of soon. Probably should have done that before the video, but anyways, we're gonna keep looking into this book, Python for DevOps, and see if we can get all the way through it. I just feel really accomplished if I did that, so that's going to be the goal. So I switched I think I mentioned this in the last video, but I switched my PC over to running on Ubuntu Linux. It's just a lot of the examples use Linux anyway, so to just do it right on my PC without a VM, I think will be fine. Also, a lot of technology books in general are better suited towards Linux and Macintosh, because Macintosh is more based on Linux. Microsoft and Windows is more proprietary, so a lot of the things you do as far as development goes are a little bit harder to get off the ground if you're using Windows. So that's my reasoning for switching over to Ubuntu. So far it's been totally fine. So let's continue on with this. I made some folders here for me to do the things I want to do, exercising, developing my career, and then my various hobbies. So we're going to get started by clicking on Kindle Cloud Reader. And the other thing I'll mention is I purchased another book recently. It's Network Programmability and Automation, and there's a really good section in it that I'll start another series for it eventually, hopefully, but this is kind of a 2-for-1 for me because I wanted to explain what I did as far as bookmarks and notes goes, and I did it for both this book and for Python and for other books as well. So if I click here, show notes and marks, you can see I built a table of contents myself. So this book is a bit better than the other network programmability book because you can go to the table of contents here, and then you can click on each link. But even that is not that great because without this manually added note that I made here for table of contents, getting to location 70 is just going to be difficult because we can see how many locations we've got. 1,100 or 16,502 locations. So just picking out any random location from those locations is going to be pretty much impossible unless you have the bookmarks set up. So the problem is when you click to this go-to menu, we got table of contents grayed out. But the solution to that is to create your own table of contents. For me, I'd say it took me about 15 minutes per book, but it's the kind of time that it's just going to save me so much time and effort later on that it's definitely worth it. So I'll demo how I did that. If I go to, for instance, chapter 8, you can see there's this little note here. So to create a table of contents, you highlight the relevant text. For me, that's the chapter headings. I'll do it for this text here because otherwise I would have to change what I already did. But here for new text, so if there was another chapter, you would highlight the chapter text. Then you would click note, and then you would write your note. What I did is I typed out the text in the chapter, but here I'll just say example table of contents manually added. Okay, so then if I click save and I go to bookmarks and notes, so before I even go there, you'll notice I've got this page here, just like I've got there, but you also notice that it's in yellow. This is not in yellow. The reason for that is because it automatically highlights it as well, but I think it looks a lot better with without highlights. So I like to delete the highlight and then just have this page here, because then if I take highlights later on, for example, here in chapter 8, if I want to highlight some text, now when I go back to my table of contents, the highlight I made shows up nested under this chapter 8 and between the chapter 9, and you can see it kind of, it really clearly makes that jump out from the page. Okay, so we're not going to need this highlight anymore. We're not going to need this example anymore, and we can confirm delete. That's what's nice about taking notes instead of highlighting too. It will, we saw with the highlight, it automatically deleted it without asking for confirmation, but with the note, it will ask for confirmation, and that's going to be important for your table of contents, because if you accidentally mess that up, it's going to really mess up your ability to navigate the book. So the other thing I'd like to mention about that is, if you notice that when you highlight something and you go to your, oh, okay, never mind. I thought when you highlighted it, it automatically put the text here, but that's not the case. So basically what I wanted to say is, when it comes to highlighting or taking a note, I highly recommend you build the table of contents taking notes instead of highlighting, because as I said, then any highlights are nested underneath it, and it gives you a confirmation when you delete it. So with this table of contents, I can jump to any chapter I want just by clicking the location. I can edit it to say whatever I want in here. All of these headings here, I had to type out myself, because you can't copy paste in Amazon Cloud Reader, unfortunately. So yeah, that's all I've got to say about that. If I go back to my library and I click on Mastering Python Networking, so one of my biggest criticisms of this book is there's absolutely no table of contents at all, not even links. So in this book, I went and I created my own table of contents as well. And so you can see here's a highlight I had that appeared before the table of contents. Here is a highlight I had within the table of contents. Really good highlight here, because if we go right to it, we can see it's a link to the GitHub repository with all the code examples. And this GitHub repository is free for anyone to use, whether you own the book or not. So I highly recommend using this and going and modifying the code and playing with it. You can probably even just use this repo here without purchasing the book, and use like free tutorials or whatever you want to just kind of learn about this code. Or if you're even good enough with Python, you probably don't even need the book at all, as long as you can understand the intricacies of the Python code. The book probably is not necessary. Okay, so yeah, this book, when we go to the table of contents, nothing is highlighted, it's just in italics there. So that was my biggest criticism of the book, and we can see it's not that difficult to resolve that criticism just by manually creating your own table of contents. Alright, so that was an aside. For this video, it's going to be focused on Python for DevOps book. Okay, so we'll continue. Now I didn't create a table of contents for this book because we've got one here, and we can jump to that. But I might consider doing that for this one as well, because it's just a lot more convenient to navigate the book using locations here instead of navigating to the location of the table of contents and then using the links in the table of contents to take you to new locations within the book. It's much easier to just go right to the locations in the book instead of having to go to the table of contents first. All right, but let's jump ahead to the location of the bookmark. All right, and then we'll continue reading with deploying Python function to Azure. The serverless platform does not yet support Azure functions based on Python. We will demonstrate how to deploy Azure Python functions using Azure native tools. Sign up for a Microsoft Azure account and install the, I assume it's pronounced Azure, I don't know, I'm just going to pronounce it that way, functions runtime for your specific operating system, following the official Microsoft documentation. Okay, so I'm going to go off the book here. The first thing I'm going to do is see if there's a definition of this term. So it means bright blue in color, like a colorless sky, and then we'll see how to pronounce it.
Azure.
So it's Azure is the correct way to pronounce it.
Azure.
Azure. I just had the emphasis on the wrong syllable. All right, so here's the documentation to set up Azure. Let's see if I've got an account. We'll follow the instructions there. Okay, so it looks like this has already been clicked at some point in the past, so I probably already have an account. Let's just verify that I can log into it. Okay, so we've got to install using these commands. Let's do that. And you can see already here right off the bat, much easier for me to follow this example now that I am running my laptop using Ubuntu instead of Windows 10. Okay, so the next step is to check this file for one of the appropriate Linux version strings. So I will use that using vim. Vim is not found, so I'll just use vi. There we go, and then we'll do a search. Actually, let's not do that. Let's do a escape Q exclamation point to exit vim, and then let's just cat out that file. Okay, and then let's take a look to see if that string is on there. So my version of Linux, if I do cat etc os release, we can see is 20.04. So we should see this focal string. There we go, focal. Okay, so we're good. Next step is to start the apt source update. Okay, and then to install the core tools package for Azure. All right, and then when changing to a different version of core tools, which hopefully I won't have to do, looks like I got one more command to run here. You should use the same package manager as the original installation to move to a different package. Okay, so I think I can skip this. For example, if you installed Core Tools 2.0 using npm, so we can see here npm install, you should use the following command to upgrade to 3.0. So I don't think we need to do that. I think we've probably already got 3.0. Let's see if we can find out which version is being installed. Okay, so it would probably be listed under here. It almost looks like we're installing 4.0. So this might be out of date here, but I'm not sure about that yet. Let's just keep reading. Next section is create a local functions project. A functions project directory contains the following files and folders, regardless of language. To learn more about the functions project folder, see the Azure Functions Developers Guide. In the terminal window or from a command prompt, run the following command to create the project and local Git repository. Okay, so once this is done, we'll be doing that next. Okay, and then all these files will go, once we're done with that, we'll change to this folder, and then we'll verify that all these files are in that folder. All right, so we're done here. It looks like we did get an error message. So it was with this package here, LVM2. But I'm just going to move on. Hopefully there was not a problem. Hopefully the problem with that package LVM2 is just something like it's already installed or something like that where it's an inconsequential error. All right, so the next step is this FunkInit command. Now we're going to need to name the project. So let's call it, so this is my function project. So we'll substitute my, so we'll call it Graham's function project, and we'll type out the full word project. So now we need to select a number for worker runtime. Okay, we definitely want to choose Python here. That's the one of these options. That's the one I'm the most familiar with. Okay, so now we should have a new folder. There it is. So let's change directories into that folder, and then let's do the tree command. So let's actually get the tree command because that's a useful command to seeing everything. Okay, so now we've got the tree command working. So we've got this dot here, meaning the current folder we're in, which is the right folder. And now here's all the files in the folder. So we'll verify that those are the files that are created once you run that command. So we've got the host file, local settings, okay, so we can do -A to see the hidden files and folders, and we've got two hidden. Or we've got one hidden file here, get.getignore, which is what we're on the lookout for, and then we've got another hidden folder here with a file that is hidden within this hidden folder, named extensions.json. And that's the final file that we're verifying. So we got all the files, even more. We got this getting started. Okay, so I'm just going to cat out the getting started because that looks like it's like a README file, so that might be useful. Actually, I'm not going to cat it out. I'm going to open it in Visual Studio Code, and then I'm going to use this dot here so that I open Visual Studio and Code to this folder here. Okay, so we're going to trust all the folder and enable all features. Now we've got this README here, which is likely pretty useful. Well, it looks like we've got an extension to handle Azure, so I'll install that. And then we're going to click Don't Show Again for the feedback survey. And I'll do the update, why not? Okay, and initialize for optimal use within VS Code. I guess, yeah, let's do that because I will be using this in VS Code. So it looks like in order to do that, we need to select a Python interpreter to create a Python virtual environment. So we will use 3.8, which I have installed on here. We notice a new virtual environment has created. Do you want to select it for the workplace? Now, this one I'm always confused about. Should I do this or not? I'm going to click yes. Usually I click no for this. But a lot of the times I click no just because I all those prompts kind of drive me crazy. My favorite thing to use is Notepad++ because it just boots up and saves everything automatically. It doesn't ask you any questions because for me the thinking is the bottleneck. So if anything interrupts my train of thought or my thinking when I'm really deep into working something, no matter what it is, even if it's an optimization to make me do something 10 times faster, I'm gonna forget to do that thing. I'm gonna make a mistake doing that thing. It's my thinking, my flow of thought is what makes me successful or not. So I've started to get used to. I'm on board with Visual Studio Code. I like it. I use it, but Notepad++ is still in a lot of ways my preferred application. Oftentimes, especially when I'm doing something more for, so oftentimes I use Visual Studio Code and Notepad++ together because sometimes I need to take things out of here and I need to kind of have my focus zoomed down. Now you can use Notepad for that if you're on Windows, but for me, I do need some kind of optimization features, bookmarks, regular expression searching, multiple line copy and pasting. I need all that But what I don't need is the questions about taking a survey, the questions about installing an extension, the question about changing your folder, so now you're in the wrong folder and nothing works. That sometimes I just can't handle. All right, so let's move on to, so here's the update. We don't need that. It's going to be fine out of date, I think. So I'm not going to go through that process. So we've got additional considerations depending on the language we chose. We chose Python. So we should run all commands from inside the virtual environment. Perfect. That's exactly what we did. And we are now in the virtual environment by selecting yes on that question. So now, is there a way to verify that it's a virtual environment? I don't see anyway. One thing that I am noticing that's really nice is when I did control tilde to open this, it automatically created my virtual environment. So it looks like that's the difference between selecting whether you want it to open in your virtual environment or not. If you select no, then you have to activate your virtual environment. If you select yes, then it activates it for you. So I think I'll be a little bit less shy about using that going forward. So let's go back to the tutorial. Okay, so we've got a virtual environment activated. That's the only additional consideration we need when using Python. So let's move to the next section, register extensions. And I'm not going to read all this out loud because a lot of it's not relevant. So I'm just kind of scanning through this to see if it's necessary or not. Yeah, and we can see here, if this works for you, you can skip this entire extension. So okay, so it looks like this host.json file is going to be auto-generated, and that's going to be used for extensions. So as long as that file generated, nothing in this needs to be done. If it's not generated, then you have to create that file. Okay, so we won't need to do anything for that. We can see the host.json file is right here. If we take a look at it, we see JSON, and we should see something about extensions. Here we go, extension bundle. So we've got the extensions installed already. Yep, so we've already got extension bundles installed. We saw that. We've got the same thing here. Now, if you're using something other than Python, you might need to add this manually, but we can skip that step because we're using Python. Okay, so the next part they're going to, so this part, again, I'm just skimming everything through to see if it's relevant or not. This is for explicitly installing extensions. We won't need to do that, so we're going to move on to local settings. So let's take a look at that local settings file. Okay, and I'm going to change some of my preferences here. I think I can disable if I look for a new tab, middle click, or what about editor? Oh, there's so many. What about editor tab? Or how about editor window? Oh, okay, perfect. All right, well, what I'm looking for is to be able to open a file by left clicking without it closing the other file. Now you can do that if you middle click, but in my muscle memory is to do that with left clicking and not having an option where it closes the file. I don't like it just randomly closing files based on whether I properly adhere to some muscle memory that I don't have learned or not. All right, so let's move on. All right, and we'll take a look at that file briefly. Okay, it looks pretty simple. All right, get your storage connection strings. Even when using the Microsoft Azure storage emulator for development, you may want to run locally with an actual storage connection. Assuming you have already created a storage account, you can get valid storage connection. You can get a valid storage connection string in one of several ways. So let's see if I've got a storage account. I don't think I do, so we'll create a free one. I do have a Microsoft account, so let's click Get Started for free. Okay, and I'll sign in with GitHub because I think that's a little bit easier. Oh no. Shit. Oh, goddamn. It's a two-factor thing, and I just showed my phone number to the public internet. Who cares? No one's watching this. Okay, so hopefully I got a text. I did not get a text. I still did not get a text. I'm not getting a text for this. I'm going to move this to another page, or another screen, so I'm not sharing my real number. And I'm going to put in a different number. and they don't accept VoIP. All right, so I guess I'm dead in the water. I keep clicking text me, they're not texting me. I guess I could try call me, but taking a call is really annoying. I guess I'm willing to do that for this video. You can also enter a credit card number, but I am not doing that. Okay, so now I can click call me, but it looks like it's not calling me either. Maybe it's because now, okay. Yeah, I don't know what's going on. It might be something on my end, but I'm not receiving a text, I'm not receiving a call, so I'm not able to sign up for an account at this time. All right, so oh, okay. Oh my God, I'm finally receiving something. Okay, now I'm receiving them all. Okay. So it's almost like I had to close this page in order to receive it. Oh, I don't want that. Okay, so now that I got 3 in a row, aha, so now I can send the 4th one. I don't know what took it so long, but... Okay, that's not the correct code for some reason. Oh, maybe it was the code. Yeah, it's the code at the bottom I have to use. I thought the newest texts I received were at the top, but they're at the bottom. Oh, you have to include a credit card. Yeah, I'm not doing that. I refuse. You can't make me. There is this there is a service I forget what it is. It's like, oh yeah, it's like Privacycom or something. I've been thinking about signing up for that because you can give away like a fake credit card number that can be used to charge your real credit card number, but at the click of a button you can deactivate the fake one or not. So it's like an intermediary number, and then what I could do is give this site my fake credit card number, get an account, and then immediately deactivate the fake number I gave it. And then there's no security vulnerability for having my card information managed by by, you know, there's a lot of Samsung, all that. There's a lot of horror stories about big companies being hacked, so I really don't think it's reasonable to just say, oh, it's Microsoft, you know, big company, they're going to protect my information. If don't need to give information, then I choose not to. And in this case, I do need to give information. I need to give credit card information in order to sign up for this, but as I said, I refuse. One thing I can try to do is I have some expired credit cards. I'll try doing that. I'll enter an expired credit card But I'm not doing it on the to share this. Oh, and in fact, I just realized I haven't been sharing my screen this whole time, which I guess is good because now I'm not giving away my phone number, but it's bad because I did a lot of stuff that isn't going to show up. So I apologize for that. Not going to be able to go back and edit it, unfortunately, or redo it since we're already 40 minutes in. So the next step is going to be to, enter that dummy, that expired credit card. Oh, I don't even remember. It's asking for a... Okay, well, that's not going to work either because it's asking for the expiration date and the code on the back, which I don't have the card anymore since it's expired, so I don't have that information. All right, well, I guess I just can't create an Azure account because I really don't want to give away my credit card. I mean, I could. It's probably the right thing for me to do because it will allow me to do this, and then of course my card has all kinds of protection controls on it, so I probably would be fine doing that. I'm tempted to do it, but it's just something kind of ideologically that I really don't ascribe to. But at the same time, there's this really good video by Veritasium about taking risks. And the more risks you take in your favor, the better off you're going to be. So this is definitely a risk, but it could be a risk in my favor because I could learn how to use Azure. I could have an account already set up, and it could end up working for me a lot better. Of course, if my card gets randomly charged for things, that's a problem, but I think I might end up doing that, but I definitely want to use something like Privacycom and give it a dummy card that I can immediately deactivate because I don't want there to be any risk of me being charged, especially in a situation where I'm doing something that is like legitimately for a production situation and nobody else has an account, so perhaps I volunteer my account because we're just going to do something that doesn't involve charges. All of a sudden charges happen and I'm charged a lot. Hopefully in a situation like that I could get like a reimbursement or something, but I just don't want to take the risk. Alright, so okay, so we didn't get too far in the book. Let's just keep reading the book. I'll get to this part here, which is probably just skimming, by skimming, and then move on. So here's what we did on, here's what you would need to do on Mac. To set up Azure, we followed the official Microsoft documentation and installed it for Ubuntu. Okay, and we created a function just like here. I gave it a different name. We selected option 3 just like them. Yep, we changed, so we didn't do this part yet though. So let's create a new function. Okay, so we're going to change directory. Into there, and then we're going to do the command func new. And so we got to select the template. Let's see what the book says to select. Option 5, which is going to be HTTP trigger. Looks like this func new command takes a while. All right, so this is, oh, okay, now we're finally working. Okay, so we're gonna choose option 9 in this case because we want the HTTP trigger. It looks like the options are a little bit different. I'm using version 4. I think they're using version 3. Okay, so now we need to give the function name. I would like to just choose the defaults, but let's see what the book is doing. Okay, I think they went with the default for this. Or did they call it current time? I can't tell. I think they called it current time. I'll show you what I'm looking at here. So I'm having trouble reading this because I can't tell if this is all meant to be in one line, so they changed this from HTTP trigger to current time, or if current time comes next. Oh, okay. So it was that they changed it to current time. All right. So maybe there's a way to delete this function. Okay, let's see, maybe it shows up as a folder. Yeah, okay, so we've got a folder here with our function information called HTTP trigger. So we're gonna remove that folder, and then we're gonna run these commands again. Function new, hopefully it doesn't take forever this time, it does not. Option 9 is what we want, but we're gonna choose a different name. The name we're gonna choose is current time. All right, so next step, inspect the Python code created. So it's created in this folder here called current time. We've got function.json and we've got init.py. So they want us to inspect the Python code, not the JSON code here. And I don't see anything specific to look at. Okay, so I'm sure it looks fine to me. So let's run the function locally with funchost start. All right. Worker process started and initialized. Host lock key acquired. So let's see if there's anything else to look for in the book. So I think we'll get a IP address. So not quite all the way there yet. Unless we've got an IP address. Ah, we do, okay. We've got one right here. right here, yeah. Okay, so now we need to test this by using another terminal and entering in this curl command. So click the plus sign here for another terminal. You can see it automatically activated that virtual environment. So we're going to do curl p. And we might need to use specific information. I'm not sure if I'm using port 7071, so let's see what port I am using. I'm using port 3846. Oh, no, I am using 7071. Okay, so I think I can just copy this over here. Yeah. Paste. And there's more than just that. Okay, so we can do backslash question mark name backslash equals Joe. And I'll enter my name in there. Okay, here we go. Hello, so there we go. Executed successfully, perfect. So the next step is to change the HTTP handler in current time to include the current time in its response. So, okay, hello, the current time is current time. So that example is kind of hard to read, but I'm experienced enough with Python at this point to know what to do. So this is what we're going to change. We're going to need to import a module to give us the current time. Okay, and then we're going to need to change this message. And we're going to need to get the current time by using that module. So to get that, we use the datetime module that we imported, datetime class within that module, and then the now method within the class. And then, or the now, wait, I'm confused. Anyway, this is what we do. I'm not going to worry about it. So we'll do that. Do that in here. Okay. And now we can do current time. All right, so here's our changes. Well, let me revert these changes actually. And one thing you can do with all of your projects, so we're going to revert these changes here. Okay, and then we're going to do that curl command one more time. Make sure we reverted everything properly. There we go, so everything looks good. So one thing you can do in all your projects that I highly recommend is you can initialize a Git repository without having a remote centralized place to push it up. You can just use it in your local files on your local PC. And when you do that, now we can see we've got this version control here, which makes things so much easier. Now you're going to have to add your gitignore files, but it looks like they included one for you already. So you would add your hidden files to that. Anything that's going to get take up a lot of space and is not necessary to have up there, because when somebody pulls down your files, for example, they'll make their own virtual environment. Virtual environments are pretty much the first thing you want in your gitignore file. But now that we have this git init command issued, we've got version control here that we can see all these changes left to be committed. We've got a new file. I thought there was going to be a new file in here. I guess not. But let's see if that PyCache is ignored. Yep, the PyCache is ignored. So we're going to do a git commit, or let's do a git status, and then a git add, and then a git commit dash m. We'll say initial commit. Okay, so now we've added everything to be tracked, and now we can see the changes we made a lot easier now. So I'm gonna redo those changes. Okay. Looks like I've still got more to redo. There we go. Now we're gonna test it out with the curl command. Okay, so we just use the same command from before to test it. There we go, and it's correct. It plugged in the variable of my name correctly. And then it also plugged in the current time, and it's 11:18. Okay, that's gonna be fine. Okay, so yep, that works. The next thing to do is to install the Azure CLI with pip. But before we do that, we're gonna commit this change. So if we do and here is the power of creating a Git repository, even though you're not going to push it up to a centralized, or even if you're not even going to work as a team, even if you're just going to work as yourself, I still recommend creating a Git repository, because now, especially when you're using Visual Studio Code, you've got this source control tool that you can use, and any changes you made, you can see the difference very, very clearly. So instead of just, and this is what you're doing when you use Control-Z, Control-Y, you're basically, trying to go through what your changes were, so you can make that a much more robust and efficient and useful if you just set up version control locally and use it locally, even if you're the only person using it. And then you get the added bonus, if you want to bring somebody in to look it over, now they can collaborate that much easier as well. So you only get advantages by doing that. You don't get hardly any disadvantages. The only disadvantage would be if you're uncomfortable using it and you make mistakes using it, but it's really not that hard to learn the basics of version control, especially with Visual Studio Code and this extension here. It makes it much more easy. All right, so we're going to do a git status, which is going to reflect what we've got up in here. We've got some changes that have not been staged yet. This will move into a new folder here called staging. And I can do all of this using the tools here. For example, if I click this plus sign, it'll stage all the changes. Here I can unstage the changes. I can, I think, yeah, so I can commit. So Control Enter to enter commit. So if I do Control Enter, or, well, let's do this. So updated message to show current time. Then we'll do Control Enter, and there we go. So now if I do a git status, we've got nothing to commit. If I do a git log, and I like to do one line, Now we can see the Git that we've got there. Okay, good. One thing I would like to be able to do is see the version control that, like for example, see that file, this file here, the index file, based on a previous commit, but I still don't know how to do that. Yeah, so that's something I want to learn. All right, but let's just Google that quick, actually. So studio code, git see old index files. Okay, so this looks like it's all just answers for how to see your current diffs before you made a commit, but I want to see the diffs, the historical diffs after I've made a commit. And in fact, maybe even from 5 commits behind, I want to see that. All right, I don't know how to do that. I don't know how to do that. All right, well, that's fine. All right, let's keep moving on with the book. So got that to work. Next step is to install Azure CLI with pip. Pip install Azure Azure.CLI. There we go. Create an Azure resource group, storage account, and function app using the AZ CLI utility in interactive mode. This mode places you in an interactive shell with auto-completion, command descriptions, and examples. Note, if you want to follow along, you will need to specify a different and unique function app name. You might also need to specify a different Azure region, such as East US, that provides free trial accounts. All right, so I'm not sure how long this is gonna take, and I need a break, so I'll be back shortly. Okay, I got a little bit more time here. I don't want this video to go too long, but let's move on to the next step, which is AZ Interactive. Alright, and I think this might be where I stop with this because I'm going to have to log in and I didn't want to... What does this mean? Telemetry? Alright, let's go with yes. Okay, so I'm going to have to log in here and I didn't create an account because I didn't want to give a credit card number and I don't have a service that... that allows you to give a credit card number you can ensure won't be charged. So I'm logged into Azure now. So it looks like I actually was able to create an account because I'm logged in now. So let's do the next step. Oh, no, never mind. It says no subscriptions found, so that's probably it. That probably means I can't. All right, let's try creating a group though. So we're gonna go AZ group, create name, my resource group, location. And we'll use a different, let's use, so we're in the West kind of. Okay. So yep, please run AZ login to set up account. And we saw I had to give my credit card information to do that. And as I said, I don't have something like Privacycom that will guarantee that it won't get charged if it gets stolen or whatever. So, okay. So I guess that's it. When I come back and do another video, it's going to be deploying a Python function to self-hosted FaaS platforms. So, all right, so I'm going to clean up my bookmarks quick. I've just got one extra one there. Okay, and that's the end of the video. I apologize for not being able to create that account and follow through with everything. I'm kind of kicking myself because I wonder if just, doing that would be worth the, the risk of doing that is not worth the reward of, or it's worth the risk of doing that to get the reward of being able to completely follow along with all the examples in this book. But at the same time, just the risk of signing up for something like Privacy.com makes it even better. So I'm just not sure what to do right now, and I don't want to make any quick decisions, especially those that can make me vulnerable in terms of security. All right, so that's it for this video. Stay tuned for the next one.